It all started like a regular Tuesday morning on my quiet ranch, birds chirping, sun rising slow, and me just finishing up some coffee when I saw something strange on my security cams. A woman in a sun hat and clipboard, looking more like she belonged in a neighborhood HOA meeting than out here in the country, was snooping around my barn. At first, I thought maybe she was lost, but no, it was her again. Karen from the HOA board back in town. Yeah, somehow she had found her way onto my private property. Again, now. Karen had already made herself a problem weeks ago when she came ranting about my solar panels violating community guidelines. Never mind that my ranch isn't even in her HOA's jurisdiction. I told her off once. I even put up signs. But this time, she wasn't just lurking or yelling over the fence. This time, she actually broke into my tool shed. And what came next was something I never thought I'd see outside a crime drama. She had forced open the old safe I keep locked in the back, a place even my own friends don't touch without asking. Only problem? That wasn't just my safe anymore. A few weeks ago, the FBI had asked to use it for evidence storage on a case I agreed to help with. They told me to keep it sealed and quiet. And now Karen, HOA clipboard crusader Karen, had just committed a federal crime without even knowing it. Then, as if that wasn't enough, she called 911 herself, claiming I was threatening her. That's when everything spiraled. Sirens, agents, neighbors watching. But what she didn't realize was, the FBI was already on their way, and they weren't coming to arrest me. You won't believe what happened next. So there I was, standing on my porch with my phone in one hand and binoculars in the other, watching Karen wave her arms like she was directing traffic at a circus. She had no clue what she'd just gotten herself into. That safe she busted into, it wasn't filled with ranch tools or old tax records like she probably expected. It had sealed documents, surveillance photos, and even a hard drive marked with a federal case number. The FBI trusted me to keep it secure because of how remote my land is. No curious eyes, no nosy neighbors. Or so they thought. Karen had somehow convinced herself that my ranch was in violation of her imaginary HOA bylaws. She kept insisting I had unauthorized storage structures and unapproved modifications. In reality, she just didn't like seeing something she couldn't control. She acted like she had some badge of authority when, truthfully, she was trespassing and now tampering with federal evidence. I could hear her on the phone with 911, pretending to cry, saying things like, "He's got dangerous things locked away, I'm just trying to protect the community." It was unreal. I kept the cameras rolling, silently thankful I'd upgraded to high-resolution footage last month. Every second she stayed on my land was being recorded, from her picking the lock on the shed to her twisting the safe handle open with a crowbar. She must have brought from home, but the real twist. About 5 minutes after her call, I got a text from my contact at the bureau. They had received a silent alarm from the safe and were en route by chopper. That safe had a built-in trip mechanism I didn't even know about. Karen didn't just break into a ranch shed, she triggered a full-scale federal response, and the clock was ticking fast. Karen had no idea she'd set off a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. While she stood there pacing around my ranch like she owned the place, the whir of distant rotors was growing louder. I knew what that meant. The FBI helicopter was close. Real close. And she was still ranting to the 911 dispatcher, loud enough that even my cattle started backing away from the noise. I stayed hidden behind the porch post, watching as she pulled out a Ziploc bag from the safe one that wasn't hers to touch. That bag held fingerprints, classified evidence tied to an ongoing case. I wanted to shout to stop her, but I knew better than to make a scene before backup arrived. Every move she made was now turning from trespassing to full-blown obstruction. Meanwhile, one of my ranch hands, Jace, showed up from the east field. On his ATV, he slowed down when he saw Karen. I gave him the signal to keep back. He mouthed, "Is she serious?" And all I could do was nod. Jace had been there the day the FBI agents brought the safe. He knew how serious this was. Still, watching someone like Karen, a person so entitled and so out of touch, meddling with something she didn't understand, it was surreal. Then came the subplot I didn't expect. My neighbor, Ellie, a retired Air Force vet, came over after spotting Karen's SUV parked awkwardly across my front gate. She was holding her phone, recording from the fence line. She'd had her own run-ins with Karen over the years. Turns out, Karen once tried reporting her for unauthorized flag displays. Ellie had been waiting for her moment, and now she had it. But what she captured on video was far worse than either of us expected. Karen wasn't just snooping, photographing the documents snap after snap on her phone. And that's when things got even more dangerous. The wind kicked up just as Karen took another photo, her phone angled right over the open safe. She had no idea she was documenting evidence tied to an ongoing federal investigation, and every click of that shutter felt like a countdown to something big. From my porch, I could hear the chopper now closer, louder, cutting through the sky like a warning bell. But Karen? She was too caught up in her own version of justice to even notice. Jace radioed me from his ATV, whispering, "You want me to step in?" I shook my head. We were too far into this now. The last thing I wanted was a confrontation before the feds arrived. Ellie had moved up the fence line and was quietly zooming in with her phone, capturing every second of Karen's wild crusade. She kept her voice low, but I could hear her mutter, "This woman's digging her own grave." Then Karen did something none of us expected. She pulled out a small notebook and started writing things down. Muttering about evidence of criminal activity. She actually believed she was collecting proof against me. That I was hiding something illegal. And that's when she walked around the barn to inspect the suspicious structure behind its old utility shed I hadn't touched in years. I followed her from a distance, careful not to spook her. My camera feed from the barn security system was still rolling, and I watched from my phone as she pried the lock off the shed with that same crowbar. The second door creaked open. I saw the blinking red light inside the backup alert system, tied to the FBI case. Another trigger, another signal. Only this one didn't just alert them. It activated a locator beacon. The screen on my phone lit up with a warning from the Bureau's contact line. Breach code red. Karen had just crossed a line she couldn't step back from. And the sound of the helicopter above was no longer distant, it was directly overhead. The chopper's shadows spread over the ranch like a warning, circling low and fast. Karen finally looked up, confused, shading her eyes as dust swirled around. She stepped back from the utility shed, clutching her phone and that notebook like they were some kind of shield. But it was already too late. That second breach had changed everything. What she didn't know, and what I was just now piecing together, was that the FBI wasn't the only agency monitoring the safe. That red, blinking beacon, it was part of a joint surveillance program, and the moment she tripped it, a second encrypted signal was sent not just to the feds, but to Homeland Security. Before I could even process it, my phone buzzed again. "A new number," I answered. A calm, serious voice on the other end said, "Do not approach her. Step back and remain visible. This situation is now classified." My stomach dropped. I'd known this case involved sensitive material, but I never imagined it would reach this level. Ellie was still recording, her face pale now. She muttered, "Something's not right. This isn't just about trespassing anymore." And she was right. Seconds later, 2 black SUVs kicked up gravel on the far end of my property. Not local law enforcement. Not even the FBI agents I knew. These were people I hadn't seen before: plainclothes, earpieces, moving with a purpose. Karen, of course, took this as proof she was right. She started waving, yelling, "I have proof. I've exposed a cover-up." That's when everything spun. One of the agents radioed something in, and another aimed a high-powered lens straight at Karen. A voice boomed from the chopper. "Step away from the structure. Drop the phone. Do not move." Karen froze, blinking at the sky like she couldn't believe it. But the look on the agents' faces said this wasn't over. And then, out of nowhere, my signal feed cut out. Every camera on my property went dark. That's when I knew this was way bigger than any of us thought. Karen stood frozen, her phone still in hand, as the helicopter hovered directly above the barn. The agents moved in fast, no shouting, no panic, just clean, controlled steps. One of them reached her first and calmly pulled the phone from her grip. She looked confused, like she still thought she was the hero in some community drama. But when they asked her full name and ran it through their tablet, her face went pale. Turns out, this wasn't Karen's first brush with federal trouble. The agents revealed something none of us saw coming. Karen had a sealed warning from a previous case tied to stolen documents from a government building 3 states away. Nothing ever stuck back then, but they'd flagged her as someone with a pattern. She wasn't just nosy. She had a history. She'd been looking for evidence for years, and this time, she found more than she bargained for. One of the lead agents came up to me after securing the area. He quietly explained that the safe Karen opened contained classified intel connected to a sting operation still in progress. Her photos alone could have blown the entire case. Luckily, the signal from the breach locked her cloud uploads before they synced. That built-in security saved it all. She had no idea that every move she made was being mirrored by surveillance. Teams already tracking the case from multiple angles as they escorted her out. Still ranting about HOAs and secret bunkers, she finally realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a federal offense. The agents thanked me, promised to sweep and reset the property systems, and handed me a card before disappearing as fast as they came. But just when I thought it was all over, I got a knock at the door that night. Not law enforcement, someone else. A man in a gray suit holding a folder. He said one line before handing it to me. "There's more to that safe than you were told." And with that, he walked off into the dark. I stood there on the porch, staring at the folder in my hands. Long after the man in the gray suit disappeared into the dark. Inside were heavily redacted documents, just enough to confirm one thing: the FBI hadn't told me everything. The safe had been holding more than just case files. It was part of a wider investigation, one involving not just criminal networks, but people in high places. I wasn't supposed to know, but now I did. And by the looks of it, Karen's little stunt missive triggered a chain of events that no one had planned for. The next morning, agents returned quietly to collect the safe. No lights, no sirens, just calm professionalism. They swept my property. One last time, thanked me again, and left me with new security equipment and a stern reminder to keep things quiet. I agreed. After everything, silence seemed like the safest choice. As for Karen, well, she's currently being held pending investigation. Her phone, her notes, even her SUV were seized. Ellie's footage ended up being crucial, and she's now on a first-name basis with half a dozen federal agents. Jace and I still joke about it when we're fixing fence posts, but the truth is, we both know how close things came to spiraling out of control. I've since rebuilt the shed, upgraded my surveillance, and posted more signs than a county fair. No trespassing, no exceptions. And that's safe. Let's just say I won't be housing anything like that again. This whole thing taught me that sometimes the most unexpected threats come wearing sun hats and carrying clipboards. But it also showed how important it is to stay alert, document everything, and trust your gut, especially when dealing with someone like a rogue HOA. Karen, who ends up robbing the FBI without even knowing it.